Batu didn't answer. He stood motionless at the edge of the rock formation, eyes wide, staring at something just out of view. The beam didn't move. It held there, steady, as if even he didn't want to disturb what he was seeing. "Batu?" Marja said, quieter now. "What is it?" He stepped backwards. Ony and Marja exchanged a look, then stepped around the formation. The space opened just enough for the wall beyond to come into view. A broad vein of charoite ran through the rock to their left, cutting across the wall in a thick band. It was unlike scattered strands they had seen before. This was dense, continuous. The purple crystal packed into layered plates that caught the lamplight in deep, uneven flashes. But it wasn't reflecting their light. It was giving off its own.
Lattice calls, we feel it shift. The air grows thin, the earth will lift. What once held fast begins to sway. The laws we trust begin to stray.
A faint glow pulsed within the vein, soft at first, then brighter as their eyes adjusted. It wasn't steady, it moved. Inside the crystal, pale streaks of light slid through the purple structure, branching and folding back on themselves like distant lightning trapped beneath glass. The motion was slow, deliberate, the brightness building and fading in irregular pulses that made the surface of the stone seem alive. They stood motionless like Batu. The light shifted again, a thin arc threading deeper into the vein before dissolving into a faint shimmer. The surrounding rock bore the familiar marks of water and time, but the charoite cut through it cleanly, uninterrupted. The vein did not follow the shape of the cave. The cave followed it. He reached out and pressed his fingers against the crystal. Warm, even through his gloves. Not surface warmed, not from friction or air. The heat was coming from within. Ony held his hand there a moment longer, waiting for the faint movement of light inside the stone, then drew back slowly. Marja stepped beside him, her lamp tracing the edge of the vein. The glow shifted again as the beam crossed it, the light inside the crystal bending and sliding in response. "It's not reflecting," she said. "It's emitting." Batu said nothing. His eyes stayed on the movement within the stone, his expression unreadable, but his stance had changed, more cautious now, as though he were standing too close to something that deserved distance. Ony was already searching the surface. A narrow fracture ran along the low edge of the vein where the crystal had pressed against the surrounding stone. Small splinters had broken free along the seam. He crouched, studied it, then pulled the chisel from his pack. Marja glanced at him. "You're not seriously—" "We need a sample," Ony said. He set the edge of the chisel into the fracture and struck. The sound was wrong. Not the sharp crack of stone, but a low, muted tone that seemed to sink into the chamber instead of echoing out. The crystal shuddered faintly beneath the blow. Inside it, the pale streak light shifted, flaring briefly before settling again. Batu's head snapped slightly toward the vein. "Don't make it angry," he said. Ony adjusted the chisel and struck again, more controlled this time. A thin shard broke loose along the seam. He caught it before it fell and held it up beneath his lamp. The fragment glowed deep purple, the charoite bands layered tightly together. Within it, something clear bent the light, the faint internal glow threading through the crystal and warping as it turned in his fingers. Marja took it carefully with her tongs and sealed it into a vial, her eyes never leaving the movement inside the stone. "Another thing that's not normal," she said quietly. "No," Ony agreed. Batu finally shifted his stance, his eyes tracing the length of the glowing vein as it disappeared into the rock beyond the curve of the wall. For the first time since they had entered the chamber, there was hesitation in him, a quiet recalculation. "Then maybe we don't stay long," he said. The light within the charoite pulsed again, slow and steady, the glow rising and falling in a rhythm that felt almost deliberate. Ony followed it absently at first, his gaze moving along the dense purple bands, watching the faint internal motion drift through the crystal. Then something changed. It was subtle enough that he almost missed it. The movement inside the stone no longer wandered without pattern. For a brief moment, the pale threads of light drew together deep within the vein, tightening into a faint alignment that seemed to reach down the length of the crystal, as if something far deeper in the rock had called to it. Ony stilled. The pattern held for the barest second, long enough for his mind to recognize that it was not random, then slipped apart, dissolving back into the slow, aimless pulsing they had been watching all along. Marja, still watching the same stretch of stone, narrowed her eyes slightly. "That wasn't just me," she said quietly. Batu glanced from a distance. "What?" Ony hesitated, his instinct pulling in two directions at once. One part of him wanted to dismiss it, to file it away as a trick of light in a strange mineral. The other refused to let it go. The glow continued, steady as before, the faint internal motion drifting without purpose. But the stillness had changed. Ony lowered his lamp slightly, as if the beam itself might interfere with what he had seen, and took one last look down the length of the stone, where it disappeared into the rock. Then he turned away. Behind them, deep within the charoite, the light gathered again, slowly this time, almost patiently.
In violet veins, the silence sings, a force unfastens buried things. No hand to guide, no voice to warn, yet something bends